Hello. My name is Peter, and with the help of my friends, I shall show you how to multiply and divide integers. Enjoy.
Alright, first you need to know what an integer is. An integer is any number, whether it is negative or positive, that doesn't have a decimal, or is a fraction. That means it isn't, for example, 1.2. That is not an integer. However, 12 is an integer. Negative 13 is an integer. All of these numbers are, as long as they're not decimals or fractions. Alright, so now on to actually multiplying and dividing integers. Now, it may seem complicated, but there's only a couple of rules that you need to remember. The rules are, if you multiply or divide a positive number and a positive number, the answer will always be positive. So, for example, 3 times 12, both numbers are positive, so the answer will be 36 positive. Now, if you are multiplying negative and negative, the answer will always be positive. So, negative 3 times negative 12 will equal 36. Positive 36. And then, if you're multiplying positive and a negative, or a negative and a positive, so one of each type, the answer will always be a negative. So, negative 3 times 12, positive 12, will equal negative 36, since one's a positive and one's a negative. Next, we have zeros. Now, 0 is a special number in integers because it is neither a positive number or a negative number. The thing about 0 is if when you're multiplying any number, whether it is positive or negative, by 0, the answer will always be 0. For example, 3 times 0 will be 0, and negative 3 times 0 will also be 0. Now, with all these rules comes a bunch of cool methods that you can use in order to figure out multiplication and division using integers. So, for example, there's a question, 3 times 12. And let's make it negative 3 times 12. Now, in order to figure out what this is, a method is to figure out, using the rules, figure out if the answer will be either negative or positive. So, in this case, since 3 is negative and the 12 is positive, that means the answer, since one number is negative, one number is positive, the answer will be a negative. So, the answer will be a negative. So, we got that. Then, what you do, just take away the negative. So, then you're left with 3 times 12. That didn't work. 3 times 12. So this is simple, multiplication. 3 times 12 is 36. Now this is simple, right? So then, since you know that 3 times 12 is 36, and the answer for negative 3 times 12 is a negative, you can just figure out that the answer to negative 3 times 12 is negative 36. Now the same also works for division. So, if you have 12 divided by negative 3, what you can do is, since 12 is positive, negative 3 is negative, you can figure out that the answer will be negative. So then what you do, take away the negative, and you're left with 12 divided by 3, which is
4.
4, yeah, okay. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. Then, since you know 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 12 divided by negative 3 is a negative number, is going to be a negative number, you can figure out that 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4.
Another way of calculating multiplication or division with negative and positive numbers is if you had 12 times negative 3, you can make this into 12 times 3 times negative 1, since negative 1 times anything will make it a negative number. So you could do 12 times 3 first, so it'll end up like 12 times 3 equals 36, then you multiply the negative 1 after, so it will equal negative 36. This could also be done the same for division. So taking the same question except division would be 12 divided by negative 3 would equal 12 divided by 3, then times negative 1. So, as we know, 12 divided by 3 equals 4. Then you have to add or multiply a negative 1 onto 4. So the answer will be negative 4.
Now that you know all the rules to multiplying and dividing integers, and you know some methods, here are some problems. 3 times negative 24. That equals it is negative 72. Did you get it? Next, we have division. So, what is 4 divided by negative 1? This one's easier. And the answer is negative 4. Did you get that one? And last but not least, what is negative 30, times negative 3? That equals positive 90. Did you get that one? Well, if you did, good job. So that is how you multiply and divide with integers.
Thank you for watching.
Yay! Right, so now that you know how to do things, why do they happen? Well, obviously, a positive times a positive is positive, because say 3 times 5, that's the equation we're going to use a lot. You're basically adding 5 groups of 3. So you have 3, and you times it by 5, so there's 5 different bunches of 3. So, yeah, it could be repeated addition. Now, positive times a negative equals a negative, because basically you have a negative number, say 3 times negative 5. We can also make it to negative 5 times 3. So basically, what happens is you're basically having 3 groups of negative 5, right? So 3 groups of negative 5. That's negative 5 plus negative 5 plus negative 5, which basically is negative 15, since you can just pretend that negatives don't exist. Then you just add them later. So why does a negative times a negative equal a positive? I mean, a positive times a positive equals positive, right? So why shouldn't a negative times a negative equal a negative? Well, basically, 3 times negative 5 is you have 3 groups of negative 5 which is -5 plus -5 plus -5. Now, if the 3 is negative, you pretty much means for you to take away 3 groups of -5, which basically will equal 15, positive 15. So basically what happens is you take away every single negative number by that -3. And as you can see, obviously, double negatives will always equal a plus. So -5 minus -5 is going to be 0. But in this case, since there's more -5s, the answer will be positive.
And that is how you multiply and divide integers.
And that's how basically integers work. So,
Yay.
yay!
Thanks for watching.